when I came back from my vacation, I got a notification on my phone and it said, over the last 5 days, you exercised less than you had in previous. And I was like, you're damn right, I did. Perfect. It was actually made me feel good. I'm like, thank you. I intended to work out less and I'm glad you noticed. This isn't a disappointment. That's validation that I made the choice to do something less. Like I was like, okay, this is just more information and it's up to me to determine what its priority is in my life.
Welcome back to I Just Have to Say with Laura Max. I am here with a repeat guest, Matt Brand, who's now the author of 2 books. We interviewed him about his first book, which was a phenomenal book about parenting, raising his 2 daughters from nature to nurture. Highly recommend checking it out. And now he has written a second book about his fitness, wellness, what have you journey, The Paradox of Fine, a midlife health transformation. Matt, welcome back to I Just Have to Say. I'm so glad to have you back.
Thanks for having me. It's good to see you again.
It's great to see you again. Did I get that tagline right? It's a midlife health transformation, right?
You got it exactly right.
I got it exactly right. Well, I'm so excited to talk to you about this, Matt, because we found each other because of your parenting book. You reached out to me. It's actually an incredible story. If you don't know it, my husband was looking up camps to send our oldest daughter to in New Hampshire, of all places. We had totally zeroed in on New Hampshire. Mr. Matt Brand reaches out to me. We've never met. He asked to be on my podcast. I asked him if he was available at a certain time. It turns out he wasn't available at that time because he still works at the camp he attended when he was a youngster. And it happens to be a summer camp in New Hampshire. So I asked him which camp, and my daughter will be attending that camp this summer. Just because Matt reached out to me and we thought it was meant to be. My husband ended up taking my daughter Selma to see that camp over the summer. And we're so excited. And I'm so excited to talk to you again today. Matt, your recent book, The Paradox of Fine, talks about your midlife health transformation. You, like so many Americans right now, right? I think we're in a transforming our health place in this country, but you really detail your personal journey that I think so many people are going to be able to relate to. I know I can relate to it personally. You've always been a skinny guy. You've always been able to, quote unquote, eat whatever you want. And you've always been, quote unquote, fine. So I'm going to have you explain what happened to you when you went to that fated doctor's appointment in 2021. Tell us what happened that changed everything for you.
Yeah. Well, so, I guess maybe it makes sense to go back a little bit. My whole, like you said, like my whole life, I was like considered to be very skinny and I was never overweight. I was also very short. So I grew up in the late 70s and 80s, and people, would feel very comfortable calling me tiny and chicken legs and like all those things. It never bothered me, to be clear. I never felt like I was being bullied or anything like that. But I grew up with a very fast metabolism. I played a lot of sports, and I could eat anything I wanted. And I was considered myself to be a pretty picky eater, so I didn't eat healthy food, but nothing mattered, right? I
just want to point this out, just like so we can get this across, though, Matt. Like, you're over 6 feet now. You didn't end up being short, and you weigh just a little bit more than I do. Like, that is, I mean, just to get across, like what we're talking about here. When
I was thin.
A man who can like eat I'm 5'6" and I'm female. So like a man who can really eat whatever they want. I mean, you really were.
I could eat anything. Yes. The best example of eating anything, right, is that my primary beverage was Coca-Cola. And after, I would say 3 or 4 nights a week, I would either my own sports or going with my dad to his sports. We would go to some like greasy counter order place after sports on school nights, 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. And I would get a chicken finger box and French fries and a large Coke. And this is like all through elementary school and middle school. Like, this is what I ate. A lot of McDonald's, all of those things. And, everybody would say, oh, that's going to catch up to you someday. And I'm like, yeah, well, now I'm, 30 and it hasn't caught up to me. And now I'm 40 and I'm like still doing this. And, your body changes as you get older and you just sort of expect that's what happens. And so that's fine. And I started after college and not playing as many sports anymore. And I wasn't doing much working out or, anything like that. And I would go for my annual physicals and they were always fine. My cholesterol was a little bit elevated, but never a huge problem. And then the summer that I turned 44, so 2021, my blood work came back and my triglycerides, and I knew nothing. All I knew about cholesterol was cholesterol's bad. That's all I'm putting air quotes. I knew about cholesterol. And my triglycerides came back over 1,000, which I think is like clinically dead. I'm not entirely sure. But it was like,
it's not, they're supposed to be under, are they supposed to be under 150? Yeah.
Under 150. So they were, and my doctor is incredible. She called me that afternoon and she said, so we have to figure out a plan here. And I think I give her a lot of credit for this. A lot of doctors would go immediately to medications, a statin or something like. And knowing that I am a software engineer and have quite a bit of obsessive compulsive tendencies, she said, like, why don't we try lifestyle changes first?
Yeah, sure.
That's what ultimately, that is what I did. So that's where sort of the journey started. And like you said, yes, I am now 6'1".
You're 6'1"
now.
So I haven't been there in terms of getting blood test results that were like that, right? But I definitely have been in a place of, I'm genetically, I've said this before we started recording. Am I genetically thin? Yes, but I definitely could not have been eating the way that you were. I had a stop sign that would come at me before one came at you, right? It would be noticeable. My pants would start getting tight if I was really eating that much McDonald's, but I could eat more McDonald's than the average person, I always thought. And then, after I had my third kid, I did have my blood drawn and I did have blood work done. And my triglycerides specifically were slightly higher than they were supposed to be. And I remember they weren't in the thousands like you were describing. And even my doctor was saying, this isn't terrible. It's just something to pay attention to. And she was giving me some tips for how I could start eating differently and what I could eat less of. And it was really the first time that a doctor had ever given me information about how to take better care of myself because it was important or not. And it was weird. It was bizarre. Wait, it's not, I can't just do whatever I want. Like I'm too old for that now. But you talk about this paradox of fine. You've always been fine. You've always looked like you are healthy, but your insides told a different story. And you talk about how it was actually a little bit of a handicap or a drawback for you that you always looked fine because you didn't know what was going on. And that we have this association between thinness and being healthy that really is not, yes, I mean, a lot of people who are thin are healthy, but that's definitely not always the case. And you talk about having to take these steps to really change the way that you ate, the way that you exercise. What were some of the main, like the changes that you made in the beginning? I think creating habits and doing things differently than we're used to doing them, especially at the age, I mean, you're 47 years old now. It's very difficult for many people to fathom doing things that are actually going to stick, but you're 4 years in now. So what are some of the changes that you made that actually stuck for you?
Yeah. So for starters, I'm 47 and a half. Yes, I count in half still.
I love that.
And I will do it just to annoy my children. Sometimes I count in days because I think that is, but yeah. So what I started doing, and I write about this in the book, from a scientific experiment perspective, I probably did too many things too quickly because it's really hard to measure when you do 5 different things. So, but it worked for me. And that's the other thing is that I always, and I say this in the book and I would tell it to anybody who I speak with, what worked for me is not necessarily the thing that would work for anybody else. And I want to be like, I'm not an expert in any of these things, but I had my experience and it has worked really well for me. And I try to share it in a way that is relatable so that, hopefully people can figure out what works for them. But for me, so I don't drink alcohol. So that wasn't,
you never drank it? Did you ever drink alcohol?
I've had a couple of, I had a sip of champagne at my wedding.
Okay. Wow. Like you really didn't. And you talk about that in your book. You talk about being a super taster, that bitter tastes.
I hate the taste of alcohol.
Okay.
Despite the social pressure and everybody else telling me that if I just haven't tried the right drink yet, but it all tastes like nail polish and river to me. So that was a recommendation, like to stop drinking alcohol. But that was easy
you
for
had
me.
That checked off.
I also don't drink coffee, which is also because of the super taster thing. So, which I didn't know at the time, but there's a series of things. Turns out I'm not a picky eater. The super taster thing, it is a problem. So I cut out soda. I was drinking a lot of Coca-Cola, right? I cut it out cold turkey that day. So the sugar was a massive, it was doing massive damage to my cholesterol. And I was drinking a ton of sugar in the form of soda, but I was also eating candy and none of it mattered. So I was just doing all of that stuff. So I cut out soda entirely. And now I almost exclusively drink water. That's really it, except for like protein shakes. So I did that. I drastically cut back my red meat intake.
And that is because of the cholesterol factor?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. And I, and sort of like the trans fats and a lot of those types of things. So I haven't had like a double quarter pounder, which is my go-to thing at McDonald's since that day.
Okay. You stopped. Do you have any fast food at all anymore? Like ever?
If from time, not really, but if I do, it's like a chicken sandwich and I'm not like, I try not to, if I'm getting McDonald's for my kids, I might like get a couple chicken nuggets and maybe some fries. Like I try not to be so obsessive about it that I want to live my life. I want to enjoy what I'm doing. And one of the things is like, there's not a competition waiting for me in 6 months from now. So I don't you do the best that you can. And some of the things I can control, like I can choose to not have a double quarter pounder. I can have a different meal.
Right.
So I do that. I also started, trying to eat better. So I not just cutting out the red meat, but like replacing certain snacks. So instead of having a Drake's coffee cake, which I used to really like eating, I'll have a banana. Right. So like just making these look small things. And then the other big giant change, of course, was exercise. So I started to try to figure out how to exercise regularly.
And you talk about how you really did not exercise at all prior to these.
That's right. I've had fits and starts, right? But not and since I was younger, when I played sports, even then I was playing sports. I wasn't like working out. And so
you weren't consistently working out.
Right.
So let's talk about, so we've talked about a few of the things that you did that to make changes. And I want to talk about the results of that. These are things that you're still keeping up to this day. Do you remember how you used to feel versus how you feel now? Do you feel exponentially better than you used to?
So it's a good question. I apologize. I left out one thing: intermittent fasting.
Yes, I read about that,
which is a huge thing for me. And a thing that I should also caveat to your listeners: a lot of people, and I write about this in the book as well, a lot of people treat intermittent fasting as a mechanism for losing weight.
Yes, and you did actually. I
lost too much weight.
You lost too much weight. Yeah.
Right. Because it was, like I said, I was not, even with the triglycerides over 1,000, I was not overweight. And I essentially treated intermittent fasting like eat like 1/3 less food.
Right. You were eating between the hours of 12 and 8, but you were eating the same amount that you would be eating between 12 and 8. Now you know, okay, I have to eat the same amount of food that I was eating in a 24-hour window between 12 and 8. Are you still doing this? Are you still intermittent fasting?
No, I did the intermittent fasting for like 3.5 years. And recently, probably just like 3 months ago, I started eating breakfast. But the breakfast is... because I have these tendencies, the breakfast is very consistent every day.
What prompted this? What made you decide that you wanted to eat?
So I have because my triglycerides are now, spoiler alert, are now much healthier. I'm healthy now. I've decided that in an attempt to try to like see my potential, the part of what I talk about, what I've learned along the way is if I want to build muscle, for example, I have to eat a lot of protein. And in the 8-hour window that I was fasting, protein is very satiating, and I just was not able to eat as much protein as I needed in order to build muscle in that 8 hours. So I figured I could always go back to the intermittent fasting, but what I want to try is have like a high protein breakfast to start my day off and see how I feel about that.
Do you feel better now that you've added breakfast?
I feel, because I work out every morning, I've always felt, since I started doing this, my energy levels are totally thrown off if I don't exercise. I feel like I am not a stuffed pig all day long because I can space out my food longer.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel there's that. There's also, I think, a pretty significant psychological feel, like a psychosomatic kind of thing, which is, I don't know if I physically feel better all the time, but I mentally feel better knowing that I'm doing something that is healthy for myself. And so I'm not entirely sure if it matters, right? Like I feel good about what I'm doing, and it manifests in some different ways. But like when I am sitting there making scrambled eggs, I'm not a chef. Right? I know how to use the microwave, but I'm not good at anything else. But like I can make scrambled eggs, and when I'm doing that, I feel good about myself. I'm doing something for myself, and I make my scrambled eggs with some cottage cheese, which I also don't like. But when you put it in the scrambled eggs, by the way, so good, and it's really good for you, makes them fluffier. And I sit at my kitchen table with my eggs and with the cottage cheese and a yogurt and like my apple, and my dogs sit next to the table, and I share a little bit of the eggs with them because they seem to love it. And I feel good about myself. Right.
Yeah.
Like
it's an esteemable action. It's like this.
Yes.
That's why I think, self-care is so important. It's not the actual thing. It's not the face mask. It's not the whatever we're doing. It's the fact that we stopped to do it in the first place.
Yeah. And it's the output, not the outcome. Like I feel good about doing something, taking some time. And I know, I have my daughters are teenagers. They can get themselves out of bed. My older daughter has her driver's license. She drives herself to school. Like it's my time requirements as it relates to my parenting job. I have more flexibility than some people have. And so, but I take advantage of that. And I'm using that time to sort of do stuff for me. And it feels, so I definitely feel, it's a little bit of a chicken and the egg, right? I don't know if it's that the results make me feel good, so I keep doing them, or the process of doing them is what makes me feel good about the result. I'm not sure which came first, but certainly at the beginning, it wasn't that.
You have teenage daughters now, so this prompts an interesting question because I have 3 daughters and they're 8, about to be 6 and 2.5. And so in a lot of ways, the sort of stress and pressure of my life, having young children, has pushed me to do things to take massively better care of myself because I have to. Like I want to feel good and I feel like I need to. And so I go further out of my way to do things that make me feel good because I don't want to exist in my life feeling yucky. But the other side of that is there's so many more factors having young children that I don't have any control over. So I don't sleep nearly as much as I should. And I love sleep. I'm a great sleeper. It's not my fault. I want to tell my Aura Ring every single morning, like, yo, like it gives me a chance to tell it that I have kids like occasionally, but then it like doesn't get it. It still talks to me about like my sleep habits. And I'm like, will you stop? Like, it is not my fault that my 2-year-old is waking up in the middle of the night. And sometimes I just like don't even want to wear it anymore. I'm like, you are blaming me. This is not my fault.
Stop judging me.
I would sleep if I could, and I can't. And sleep affects so many things. And honestly, I don't go to a gym or a cardio class because I don't have the energy, and I quite frankly meet my activity goal every day without doing that. So I've just decided to take that as that's what I'm capable of for now. Do you feel like there was something about the timing of this for you that like, okay, you don't have these like younger kids that you're running after, you can finally pay attention to yourself?
Yeah, I guess so. I've thought a lot about that. And like, did my trigger moment, which was in July of 2021, was I just lucky in when that happened? Because had it happened 5 years earlier, would I have been capable of finding the time in my day to do the things that I needed to do? I don't know. Let's put it this way. Because of my obsessive compulsive tendencies, I'm up very early in the morning, for example, and before my kids. So like by 6:30, typically in the morning, I'm down in my gym. I have a home gym. I'm down there, and I check to make sure my kids are getting ready for school. And it's like I have the capability to do that. Have my kids been your kids' age? By the way, my older daughter, there's a good chance she'll end up like working with your daughter at camp this summer.
Oh my God,
she's going to be a counselor in training. So, so I think there's certainly a benefit in having daughters who are more autonomous with their day. And frankly, I'm sort of nearing the age where they don't actually want me around very much. So like, it's like, all right, well, I guess I'll go, I work out in the morning, that's it. But like at last night, I came home, I'm on my local school board. I came home from a school board meeting at 10:30 last night. And my daughter actually had a friend over, and they were sitting in the kitchen and I came into the kitchen, and for like a half an hour, we just talked for a while they made their version of guacamole.
Wow. At 10:30 at night on school, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
This is terrifying for me. I hate
Right.
being
Well,
up late.
but I was like, okay, so I've done everything I need to do for the day. I feel good about myself. And here's my opportunity. This is when my daughter is actually willing to talk to me. So this is like, I'm going to take this opportunity. It doesn't affect the rest of what's going on in my life. So like, yet for sure, I am lucky that this all happened to me. And prior to July 21, my father had a health incident a few months earlier than that. And which was instructive for me to say, like, okay, he's older than I am. Of course, I am not. What can I do now to make sure that I am best positioned to be healthy and around as long as possible and viable, right? I don't want to just be alive, right? I want to be living.
Yeah. You want to be Well, I think around the age that you made this decision is the age where we start to think about this too.
Right. Because we're all, everybody is, we're all sort of faced with mortality in one form or another. The older we get, the more often that happens. And so it was just time. I was lucky to have been hit with this moment in my life. And I certainly wish, I don't have any regrets about the way I lived my life, because I made decisions and I did things in my life based on the information that I had. And I think it's similar, like if you lived in the 80s and you were a cigarette smoker, I don't think you can look back and say, God, I wish I didn't smoke cigarettes. I don't think that's fair to yourself. I think people didn't know how bad that was. And so like, I didn't know, there were no indication that I was doing anything that wasn't good for me. So I don't look back and say, oh, what an idiot I was. Like, right. Like,
yeah, you were also able to go back and like correct it too. I think that's like, we should give more weight to that. Just that like we are redeemable human beings and that we have opportunities to do things better and differently, and that actually make meaningful changes in our lives, regardless of our past decisions in all areas of our life. I think that's really, well, this was such a transformative experience for you that you wrote a book about it. And so as I was reading it, I was just thinking about wanting to ask you what motivated you to share your experience. And I can imagine that having had it, it's very like you probably really want people to understand that they can do this too. Was that a huge part of why you wrote it?
Yeah, for sure. And when I was writing towards the end of writing Nature and Nurture, when I totally thought like, okay, I have this creative itch, I'm going to scratch it.
Yeah.
And are we one and done? And what they don't tell you is that, in the big they, the sort of royal they, is that it's not how it works. Like once you get that itch for writing, it just sort of keeps going. And so I'm like, okay, what can I write next? I want to write more things. And then I was like, well, what can I write about? I'm not somebody that everybody knows. I'm not like a well-known author. I'm not your best friend, Colleen Hoover. And I am, so I have to like write in a way that I hope is relatable, that because nobody cares about Matt Brand's story. But if I can write in a way that somebody who is like me can read it and say like, well, let me reflect upon my own life. And so I say like, look, there's no 6-minute abs version of getting in shape, right? There isn't. I don't care what any of those infomercials say. There's no prescription that I could write for you, for anybody, that says like, follow these exact steps, eat these things, and it will work for you. It's just not possible. So what I was hoping was, here's a domain that I've become really interested in, my health and fitness. There are lots of people who are in similar situations. My belly gets a little bit bigger. My back hurts, my skin is, all these different things, or my cholesterol goes up, or I have whatever problems. And that we just accept this is what happens as you get older. And certainly our ability to recover, our mental, all of our different capacities degrade over time. Nothing gets better we don't physically get better over time, but like, certainly we have things within our control that we can do to try to mitigate the risk associated with that degradation. And so I thought, like, if I can share my story in a way that might inspire somebody who reads it to think, let me look in the mirror internally, introspectively and like literally, let me just look and see. I love my life. I have a wonderful relationship with my wife and my kids, and like it's great. I keep busy. Everything is great. But I can have all of that and also be healthier. So that's why I spent more time working on the outline than I did on the writing, because I was like, how do I tell this story in a way that doesn't come off as like vain, doesn't come off as preachy, it is a little more abstract than just like, here's my workout routine.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was actually it was none of those things that you described. And you did an amazing job really showing your process in an approachable way. And you talk a lot about how like there's no overnight cure to any of this. But when I look at what you were, that you found out you got these blood test results in 2001. It's 2021. It's 2025 now. It was more than a few months, sure. But you started to see results like very much more quickly than I think. Like, I think if people really knew how long it took, they might actually give it a try. I think people don't understand that, yes, it does take time, but also it doesn't take nearly as long as you might imagine to have a very different set of habits and a very different lifestyle.
Yeah, the habit forming part it's that first commitment. Like, just do something for like 2 weeks and see. I think the problem is, and I don't want to blame the infomercial sort of fitness influencer space, those people selling products and doing the thing that they do, and that's great. But the idea that that you can get something overnight is the problem isn't theirs, it's mine. I'm the one that set the wrong expectations or believed the wrong expectations. So yes, I would say I saw no discernible physical changes in the first 2 months after I made all those changes. My triglycerides dropped drastically, but I didn't see any change. So all I had to sort of commit to is, I'm going to make these changes and we're going to just stick with it for a little while. And it was really challenging for me because I'm a data person. I like to be able to measure things. And I am in the software space. I'm a software engineer. In the software space, I sort of live by the concept of failing fast. So like if there is data that says that whatever I'm doing isn't working,
you can switch it. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. But you can't do that with this kind of process. And so that sort of the sort of real changes, and I talk about this in the book as well, like there are so many things that I learned along the way that it started to turn into a fun journey. As in, like, I can't wait to learn what is next or what I can try, or like that kind of stuff became like a game.
Well, you can tell, like, from reading the book that you felt that way, and that just in talking to you prior to this, that you like got really excited about what was happening for you and what you were doing. And I imagine that was the case, to have such a transformation and to see your triglycerides being within the realm of normal when they were in the thousands. I mean, it's just such a rewarding thing. Like, my actions actually have positive consequences when I take care of myself.
Right. It is a leap of faith. Yeah.
Yes.
It's a leap of faith up until you get that first result. And I say this, like, we don't all have, maybe if I lived with a phlebotomist or whatever, what is it called? The person who takes your blood, like where they could take my blood every day.
Right.
Which I also wouldn't recommend, because like checking progress every day is not a good, healthy thing. But like, at the beginning, I was going every 2 or 3 months to get blood work. So progress I had to commit to at least waiting that long to figure out if what I was doing was working.
We'll be right back to I Just Have to Say with Laura Max after a quick word from our sponsor for today's episode, Styled by ALV here in Aspen, Colorado. Are you planning a celebration or event in Aspen? Whether it's a bridal or baby shower, a corporate event, or just a special gathering with friends, Styled by ALV is your go-to for creating an occasion to remember. Let me tell you, there is no swag I wouldn't ask Styled by ALV to make for me. Her designs are so creative. We're talking custom logos and taglines on merch for your event that will actually make you laugh. And best of all, they're items you'll actually want to use and wear long after the event is over. Your guests will take home the stuff that you give them after your big event, and they will wear it and use it. Can you imagine? Styled by ALV is all about custom merchandise, styled events, and tablescapes that add a personalized touch to any gathering. From perfectly branded party favors to stunning table settings that wow your guests, she knows how to elevate your event from memorable to unforgettable. Her style is high as the Rocky Mountains. If you're ready to make your next celebration in Aspen as stylish and unique as it deserves to be, visit styledbyalv.com or check her out on Instagram at styledbyalv. Trust me, your guests will be talking about it for years to come. And now back to our guest.
Well, speaking of tracking your progress every day, I want to talk to you about fitness trackers because we've discussed this a little bit previously. So I purchased an Oura Ring in the past probably 6 months, and I talk about it constantly. I'm so thankful that I still have friends because I seriously talk to them about this damn thing all the time.
You can talk to me anytime. I love it.
Oh my God. I'm so obsessed with it. Actually, to the point that my husband now has one. He's more obsessed than I am. So I'm on the other end of somebody telling me their sleep score every morning. And I'm like, oh my God, this is what I do this. I tell everyone. I'm like, everyone just like knows my sleep score every day. My kids now, they're like, how'd you sleep, Mom? But I absolutely love it. So if you don't know about the Oura Ring, I'll just tell you, you get a readiness score every day based off of a bunch of different statistics, and you get a sleep score every day. It also tracks your stress levels, your heart rate, anything that's stressing your body out. If you're about to get sick, if you are sick, it's really fantastic. And really the only gripe that I have around it as a parent is the sleep thing, where I'm like, hey, is there like a button I can press where I'm like, I'm really trying, but like I actually can't. And it doesn't seem to get that I have, like, it knows that I have young children. It asks me about it. But regardless, when they're clearly the ones waking me up every night, it will say like, what was bothering you last night? And I'm like, actually nothing. Like something was bothering somebody else and I was taking care of that. So, but all that is to say that I actually totally obsessed with this thing, but I left my charger for it somewhere. I couldn't find it. We were traveling. So I actually didn't wear it for a month. And as the month progressed, I started to really not want to put it back on. I started to develop like a negative association with my time wearing it. I wasn't sleeping very well during that month because one of my kids, I had a sick kid. I had a kid who was having nightmares. And I'm like, I don't want this thing telling me how awful I am because I don't sleep. And I start pushing it away, even though it was all I talked about. It was making such a positive difference in my life. So I find the charger. It's like somewhere in my car. And I decide, like, it's interesting that I made this choice because I was really thinking maybe I'm not going to put this back on again. I decide to put it back on. And I woke up the next day. I had my sleep score back. I actually felt so much better, Matt, like just having the data. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be with me not sleeping. And it made me feel like I was in control of something. Like I could take charge of my health. Like, no, you're not sleeping at all. But here's what you can do. Like you can hydrate. You can meditate here. And like, just like something is watching out for me. You're an Apple Watch guy. One of my best friends is an Apple Watch girl. Tell me your experience. Do you feel like it played a role in your health journey, like a significant one?
100. I don't even, I'm an engineer, right? So there's no number greater than 100%, but 100, 1,000%. So There are a couple of things. I have worn an Apple Watch since the first generation.
Yeah. Wow. The first generation. How long ago was that?
I don't know, 10
a long
years,
time ago,
10 years, something like that.
Okay.
But and I'm a software person, so I love technology. I'm an early adopter. I try, everything like that. I had a Whoop band at one point as well, and I loved tracking that stuff. I was actually looking, for those people who use an Apple Watch and you have the activity rings. The last time that there was a day when I did not close the 3 activity rings on my Apple Watch. This is the number of hours where you're standing up at least once in the hour, the number of number of minutes or whatever it is where you're doing active exercise or movement, and the number of calories that you burn. You have goals. You can set all those goals. The last time that I didn't close all 3 of those rings in a day was 2022. So I also have like a 1,500 day Candy Crush streak, but that's a different cycle. That's a different problem.
Tell me what's behind the obsession. I don't get it. I've never played.
Well, I just there's I have a lot of things that, neuroses, like everybody, and things that I try to do to make sure that they don't get the best of me. Sounds like a little bit like what the Ring was doing to you a little bit.
Sure.
And I'm going through this right now with artificial intelligence as a software engineer and as just like a consumer of technology. And so there's a moment, like an inflection point for me with technology where I say, I'm in charge. This is a tool that is useful and informative. It's not controlling me. So like the judgment. So for instance, Apple Watch has a feature that allows it to remind you to stand up every hour.
Right. Yes.
Which I turned off because guess what? I'm in charge.
Yeah. My friend who loves her watch, by the way, turned that feature off too.
Yeah. So, and for some people that might be totally fine and you might need that. But for me, like I'm going to do my routine. And if I fail in a day, I know maybe this sounds counter to what I would like to my 3-year streak, but like if I fail in a day, I know it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Right. Last week I was on vacation in Mexico. I adjusted my goals while I was in Mexico because I was going to do what from a fitness perspective, it's called a deload week. So I intentionally was doing like lighter workouts and I knew I'm not going to burn as many calories and I'm not going to exercise as long. I'm on vacation. I'm just not going to do those things. So like I just slightly adjusted them down a little bit because I didn't want to get to a point where I was like, oh my God, I have 200 more calories that I'm supposed to burn. I'm like, I'm not supposed to do any of those. I don't want it to be like, I could have just taken the watch off, but then I wouldn't have an outrageous tan line. So like I need to keep it on. So yeah, of course. So when you get to the point where the technology you acknowledge as an individual adult person, right? That when you acknowledge that these pieces of technology, whether it's your Ring or your watch or AI or whatever it is, are just utility tools to help inform you, but that you are still the one in charge, then it becomes much less of a burden on me. And so that's how I sort of like managed all, I do find it super useful. I track every workout on my watch. And all of that information, I like looking back on it. I like to sort of see, because it's just fun. It's like you play a sport and you look at the scoreboard at the end. I mean, you
want to know. It's rewarding to see like, oh my God, look at the results. And even every day, the Oura Ring, it gives you an activity goal. And I've said forever, like before I had the Oura Ring, I'm like, I'm certain that I'm burning so many calories every day just running after my kids, that like it's sufficient. And I got this ring and it was like, yeah, you're totally right. And just before I had it, I didn't have anything saying, hey, good job, congratulations. And now I do. And it's really rewarding. And I've noticed like if I am sitting down and I could be walking around and doing the exact same thing, I'll go the extra mile. I will walk, I will push myself. And it's just a really gratifying thing. I think, we're so afraid sometimes, as collectively, we're so afraid of technology. I get it. AI, it can all be really scary, but I really do try to focus on like, okay, what amazing things has this brought into my life and have technological advancements brought into our life. And we have this incredible capacity right now to optimize our health, to live longer potentially. And it's an incredible tool. And it really is just a very validating tool. I can only imagine how I would feel if I could actually sleep at night.
Right. But here's a question for you. Ready?
Yeah.
What about a day? How do you feel? And maybe, as to the extent that you're comfortable saying it.
Sure.
How do you feel on a day when you don't meet the goals of the Ring that the Lord Ring has determined?
I know, right? See, I think about like people collectively, and like I worry about them, like certain personalities who are very like goal oriented and how they might react to not meeting those goals. Honestly, it doesn't really bother me when it comes to like my activity score. If I didn't meet the activity score, it's usually that I didn't meet it by like 50 calories or something like that. I'm not super overwhelmed by that, but I do get very frustrated when my general, so there's a score that ranks your sort of overall, it's not your stress level, it's your resilience. It's your resilience score. And there's 5 different levels. And the middle one is solid, like number 3, that the number 4 is strong, and number 2 is adequate. And when I'm just adequate and it says adequate on my thing. I hate it so much. I'm like, I am better than this. I am not just adequate. And I've never been, there's the one under that is limited. So I've never been limited. And I think I probably was limited. And that was when I had my ring off. And I think I would really struggle with that. Do I think that is no, like, do I think that that's what people should feel? No, I'm a person. I really appreciate it mostly for the positive feedback. And the thing that made me want to take it off was the negative feedback when I didn't have any control. Like I can imagine having a newborn and having this thing on. Like I think that'd be a fresh nightmare. Like why would you put yourself through that? Right.
I mean, I had for sure. When I came back from my vacation, I got a notification on my phone that the fitness app had discovered a new trend. So I went to look at what the new trend was, and it said, over the last 5 days, you worked out or, you exercised less than you had in previous. And I was like, you're damn right. I did. Perfect. I was like,
sure.
It was actually made me feel good. I'm like, thank you. I intended to work out less and I'm glad you noticed. And so I even turned that into this isn't a disappointment. That's validation that I made the choice to do something less. And for my mental health and it's also good every now and then to sort of tone down the working out too. You give your body a break. So I was like, okay, this is just more information, and it's up to me to determine what its priority is in my life.
Well, you have to have that voice of pushback too. You have to really know yourself and be able to say, yeah, you're damn right. Like I was vacationing or I'm really glad I didn't move. I get worried about the people who are like, I have to have 100, like I have to have a perfect score every day and there's no variance, but I definitely have had the same thing. I will see that I've taken a step back and it was intentional and I'm like, oh, good for me. Or it'll tell me that I seem really stressed lately. And I'm actually stressed because I had back-to-back podcast interviews where I was really engaged and it was a great thing. And not the other thing that it's taught me is not all stress is bad. And I've always I've learned to associate stress as being negative, but I'm very stressed when I'm doing a high intensity interview that I've had to prepare for. And that is a wonderful positive thing in my life. And so I try to also, I think it's important to be able to tell myself that as well,
Everything in moderation, right? They say, I put this in the book too. There's the whole way your muscles build if in terms of exercise is by stressing them just enough, right? Not too much, but if you don't stress them at all, you're never going to get more fit.
You're never going to get fit. And think about somebody, I always think about elderly people in a retirement home that don't have their friends around them and they're lonely. They don't have stress in their life. Stress can be very positive and it's not all bad at all.
Well, this is the whole thing. I think one of the biggest themes of sort of my life these days that not everything is a zero sum or binary choice. Stress, like you said, there's everything in moderation. There's a good version of stress is motivating if it's the right amount. I don't want anybody to feel too anxious. I don't want to feel that way either. But there's a healthy amount of it that actually motivates me. That is validation that I'm doing something right. And it's the same thing with there are a lot of things in life where a little bit of being a little nervous is okay. Being a little anxious is okay. Being a little stressed is okay, or whatever the right amount is for you. And that's how we make progress.
That is how we make progress.
And we don't get complacent settling for it's exactly that. I felt no stress about my health.
Yeah.
So I did nothing about it. And
right. And you had to have stress. You had to feel stress about it, right? Every time I have a kid, I get very anxious and hypervigilant. And I try to remind myself, it's so annoying to feel that way. It's so difficult for me to feel that way. I hate being jumpy. I'm the jumpiest person in the entire world after I have a baby. And when it's going on, I try to remind myself, this is happening to me because my hormones in my entire body are working together to make sure I can keep somebody alive. And that is a huge responsibility. And so when somebody knocks on my door, I jump 5 feet in the air and that's an over response. But the positive is I have all this anxiety for a reason. And yes, I need to learn how to calm down part of it, but it's there. It's not all terrible. And this idea that we're supposed to be meditating on a beach for the rest of our life with absolutely no stress, Hakuna Matata, right? In The Lion King, Hakuna Matata doesn't end up being the way, right? it was helpful for
you
a
could
minute.
choose that.
Right.
You could choose that. And by the way, every time I have a kid should be the name of your book.
Every time I have a kid.
Right. I said, I was talking to my mother actually before she read the book. And I warned her about some things that might make her a little upset in the book. And she said something to me about like, well, what are you hoping that people sort of get out of it? Right. And what I said to her was, I just want people to know that you do have the power, as cringy as it is, or my kids would say is cringy. It's just a choice. And I don't mean to minimize or simplify how challenging it is to actually take action, but you have control over your life to a lot of the things in your life, not everything. And it's up to you. So you could choose to sit on a beach and meditate quietly and be away from all people. And that maybe is good for you, maybe not, but that's a choice that you could make. You could choose to sit on your couch and eat those coffee cakes and DoorDash quarter pounders and drink tons of soda. That's totally your choice, but you could make a different choice if you wanted. And it doesn't have to be the same choices that I made or that anybody else makes or what those fitness influencers make or, anybody like that. But it is a choice and it's yours. And so that's what I said to my mom. Like, when you read this, it's up to you. Like what you take. You don't have to follow my steps. Just choose or don't. It's also a choice to make a change.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I think that's so apropos, and your book really communicates that too. You say so many times, like, this is not a prescription. This is what I did. And I'm sharing this with you so that you know that it's possible to make a change, not that the change has to necessarily be done in this specific type of way. When you look back at photos of yourself from before your blood test, like, sometimes I look back at photos of myself, like when I was pregnant, for example, and I can feel it. Do you feel how you used to feel? Is it different than you feel now?
It is. It's a funny thing. There are not tons of photos of me there. Yeah, for sure. But I think it's actually about, for me, and I cover this in the book as well, it's about confidence. Something that I never realized that I struggled with. And I was always like hyper confident when it comes to my profession. I think I'm really good at what I do. And that's because I'm a nerd, and it's like really easy to be a nerd and for me. But as it relates to, like, I see old photos and it makes me feel a little, I sort of look at them now and I'm like, how did I not think that there was a problem? And I'm careful about that too, because I love myself. I've always I never felt like look in the mirror and be like, ugh, you're so ugly, or like I'm not happy with my body or anything. Like, I never had those feelings. And so I want to, and I also want to be sort of mindful of, like, now that I'm in good shape or better shape, I sort of got upset with myself a little bit at the beginning with, like, why do I care now? Like, why, like, now that I feel like I'm in better shape, I look back at those photos and now I'm judging like I'm some like holier than thou person. Like, that's not I don't feel good about myself when I do that. But objectively, if I see, and there's a picture, there are two pictures in the book of me with a really good friend of mine that we're in the exact same pose. And it's totally like she's a summer camp friend from the same summer camp that your daughter's going to attend. And we saw each other in the summer of 2021, and she came to visit and with her kids, and she doesn't live near me, so we don't get to see each other very often. And she always wants to take this like picture. So her kid took the picture and whatever. I didn't even see it. And then we did it again a couple of years later on the last day of camp. She was picking up her daughter. I was picking up my daughter. And then she sent me both of the pictures, and I saw them, like, we happened to be in the exact same position. And I happened to be wearing, it was the summer that Barbie came out. And I was wearing an I Am Kenough t-shirt.
It's the pictures in your book.
Yeah, unironically, like, or at least unknowingly. And like the difference in the photos is sort of, that was a moment where I was like, oh my God, what a different person. Like, and it's not just the physical stuff. And I put them in the book, I second time, like I zoom in on my face, and there is something, it's hard to sort of articulate, but there is definitely something.
There's a light
in
your eyes that comes out that I can picture.
It's more important to me. That is more important to me than any of the physical changes, honestly. And then, it's easy to sort of see that and think this is something that I spent that particular chapter in the book. I spent more time on than anything else because I was so. It's actually quite funny. To bring it back to AI for a second, I was chatting with AI when I was writing that chapter as like a thought partner, and I was struggling with how to write it. And one of the things that it said to me was basically, the fact that you are struggling so much with how to write this particular chapter is proof of what you're writing about in the chapter. Like it was, and it was just a fascinating thing. So yes, I see those old pictures, and it does. I sometimes like shake my head, smiling. I cannot believe that. And I didn't. And look, I didn't lose 300 pounds, and like I'm like a whole different person. But it's a lifestyle change, and I find myself feeling quite proud of the discovery more than the results. So like the ability to say, I'm going to make a change, and I don't know where that road will lead me, but I'm gonna go down that road, and we're gonna see what happens. And that's the part that I feel. And those pictures are a reminder of the process, not of the result.
Well, I also found it amazing that you were going to the doctor for your checkup so regularly. Like even when your health was in, I guess, had you had a blood test the year before? How long had it been?
Every year.
And this was the first time that your results were like this?
They were always, the triglycerides were always like a little bit elevated, but not like nothing abnormal. And then they spiked, and I don't know,
Does anyone know why they spiked like that? Because your habits were pretty much the same.
Nothing changed, right? None of those habits changed. I mean, I don't know.
Okay, that's so fascinating. Do you feel like, I think whenever I've made a significant health change, I've been a lot more cognizant of the way that we are collectively as a society. Like I notice things about like the way I did like a dry January once that lasted me a very, very long time. And now I drink very little. And my alcohol habits changed dramatically during that time. And I remember just becoming so cognizant of the way we drink as a society and the way alcohol is just everywhere. And I actually think that has changed a lot in the last year. There was an article that came out recently that we are actually drinking less. Like a lot of people want to drink less in our country. Do you feel like, what did you notice the most about the way we consume food? And like, did you start to notice so much more fast food? Did you start to notice like more seed oils everywhere you went? Like, what were the things that really like stuck out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you start, I didn't know anything. For starters, it's like I'm not a nutritionist. I didn't know you can look at sweet tart ropes,
yeah,
and say, or Welch's fruit gummies, and say, well, there's like a little bit of fruit in there, right? Like it's
they're not like that they're like 200 calories or something. It's not like
that bad,
right?
Like, but
they're pure sugar.
A good place to sort of see it is the movie theater.
Ah, yeah.
You walk into the movie theater and you look at the concession, and I love going to the movies. And you go to the concession stand and you're like, every single thing here. And I'm not, disparaging AMC or any other movie theater chain. Love going, but like every single thing, there's a better choice, just not at the movie theater. And so I think that for me is the biggest. Like, what can I eat that isn't just all sugar?
Yeah, that isn't just junk. Sure. What do you do at the movie theater?
Now I get a bottle of water, and sometimes I'll get popcorn.
Okay, but I love popcorn.
But I won't get candy anymore, and because I don't. This is the thing. Recently, a couple months, 5-6 months ago, one of my daughters said to me, "Do you ever crave Coca-Cola, not the other Coke? Do I ever crave Coca-Cola?" And because they know, like I would. There are pictures of me, like at summer camp, always holding like a 20-ounce bottle of soda. Like I always had a bottle of soda. Like, do you ever crave that? And I said to her, no, not only do I not crave it, but I actually don't think I would like it anymore. Like I can almost imagine the taste now. And I think it would be gross for me. And and I said to my daughter, like, I was like, look, I'm trying very hard to not be judgmental. Like if you like drinking it, like people can do their own thing, even with people who are smokers. Like it's not my place to tell you not to do something. It's your body, it's your life. Like you do you. I'm just telling you for me, like instead of drinking that soda, I'm going to drink water. Instead of eating that, like I said, that coffee cake, I'm going to have a piece of fruit. Like that's the choice that I'm making. And society does push on you. I will say the thing that I noticed more than the food stuff is the fitness influencer thing.
Interesting. You're the second person who said that on this podcast, by the way, who's talked about fitness influencers being a little destructive.
And I don't disparage them. They're trying to make their living. And I listen to a lot of health and fitness podcasts, and I read like Dr. Peter Attia's book, Outlive, is outstanding. I highly recommend everybody read that. Like there's a lot of that content out there. And from a lot of the fitness influencers, you get like, if you just do, similar to your Oura Ring, if you just do squats, deadlifts, bench presses, and you get their weight increased every time, and you get this ab roller, and you get this device, and you get that device, you're going to be in the best shape of your life. And I'm like, no, you don't know my situation, right? You don't, like, yes, we could say scientifically that squats, deadlifts, bench presses are like the best compound lifts one could do, but like I'm alone. I don't have somebody to spot me. That might not be the right thing for me. I have a bad back. That might not be the right exercise for me. So there is no one size fits all, but those things are pushed on people all the time. And like I joke about in the book, like the Thigh Master. And I don't know if you're old enough to remember like the Thigh Master business, but it was like, there was a shake weight device, which like these ridiculous, like feel like Saturday Night Live sketches.
There, the shake weight. No, I know, it's crazy. It's crazy. And I think you talk about having a personal trainer and at a certain point in your journey here. And I think I had one myself when I was much younger. I was sort of like tricked into getting one when I was in high school by somebody at the gym. And if anything, that experience taught me that like once you've worked with somebody one-on-one who's catering to who you are and your anatomy specifically, you really come to understand that like weight loss and fitness, there's no prescription. There's no one size fits all.
That's right. And you have to give yourself, I think, some grace. That you have to be able to say, like, I'm going to have bad days, not even bad days that are less than ideal, right? Days that don't go great. And that's okay. Like, I'm going to go out for dinner with my wife. And if there's a lava cake on the menu, I am getting it and I don't care. And I'm not going to feel bad about it. And because I love lava cake. And guess what? When I was in Mexico, like there was ice cream and I'm going to eat it. And I'm not going to be like, well, can I have another one? Yeah, I'm going to have another one. And then what? I'm going to have some churros and I don't care. It's okay. Because like that, this is all fine to just sort of, and the trainer, I will tell you, I consider myself to be a reasonably intelligent person.
Yeah.
And
you're a very intelligent person, Matt.
Well, thank you. But I never felt more humbled and less smart than after working with the trainer for a couple of months and seeing the results and being like, what an idiot. How did I ever think that I could do this without a professional telling me what I should be doing? Like, I'm just going to like piece it together on my own and think that I would have any semblance of like a real progress or not hurt myself. Like my confidence in exercising after I worked with somebody who knows what they're doing, right? Like obviously, it's like if you have to get back surgery, you're like, well, let me just YouTube it for a minute. And okay, now I get it. Like, I'll just do it myself.
Yeah. I mean, in some ways I feel like that stuff can be so empowering for somebody who like cannot afford to get the help that they maybe need. And like, there's that going on, which is great. But the other side of it is like, wait, like this might not be what you need. And I'm really glad that you speak to that so much in your book. If you could have anyone, if you could just choose what people were to walk away with, the reason why you wrote this book, what do you really want people to take away when they close the book?
Yeah. So I think it's you have a choice. One, you have a choice. And Matt Brand does not judge you, right? Your choice can be to do nothing, but just accept that it's yours to make, that you are not a victim of the circumstance of aging. Just because the earth went around the sun one time doesn't mean that you have to settle for anything. And this isn't about like, I want to get rid of my beer belly or anything like that. Like, it is, you have a choice to improve your life every day. You can do that. And then as an actionable thing, I would say, and I have a lot of people since I started on this thing and I've gotten more comfortable talking about it. I have a lot of people who are around my age or who are like, well, where did you start? Where do I start? And what I tell people is like, just pick one thing. Pick one thing instead of having that, whatever it is, the devil dog, right? Like, switch it out for a piece of fruit or a healthy snack. Just one. Do one thing. Instead of sitting on the couch and doom scrolling on TikTok, right? Take the 10-minute. Here's a compromise. Continue to doom scroll on TikTok, but walk around your neighborhood while you're doing it. Like, just do like one thing for yourself and don't worry about the result. Just go for a little bit of a walk. Just have a piece of fruit. Just see how you feel in 2 weeks. Not because you're going to have like ripped, shredded six-pack, right? But see how you feel mentally, that you've done something nice for yourself, that you've given yourself that grace. And like, I think that's the way good habits are formed. And that's what I think, like, if you read the book, hopefully it is motivation for people to say, like, I'm going to just do one thing. That's it. Whatever your one thing is.
One thing can make a huge difference. And you did a lot of them, and it is amazing to read about. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast to talk about your book.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.